While the Dream Defenders were inspired by the murder of Trayvon Martin to occupy the Florida State Capitol, there were 3 black women inspired by the murder of Trayvon to occupy spaces online with the revolutionary idea that black lives were just as valuable as everyone else's, and that the courts, the police, and the mainstream media are all part of a system of injustice aimed at killing and arresting people of color for profit. Activists Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi, and Patrisse Cullors started a hashtag on Twitter called Black Lives Matter and applied it to any tweet that addressed racist policing, mass incarceration, or the fetishization and subsequent dismissal of Black death by mainstream media. Simple yet complex, the hashtag Black Lives Matter quickly resonated with compassionate fighters of racism. Those who never think about how undervalued black lives are in the society, those type of people, became immediately offended that someone was not reaffirming their value and pushed back with the very unoriginal hashtag, All Lives Matter. If All Lives Matter is not a hyper-privileged, entitled way to put how you feel about people's lives, I do not know what it is. Of course all lives matter, but all lives are not treated like they matter. Unfortunately, we live in a society that values people with lighter and whiter skin over people with darker skin. This is not an opinion, nor is this based on my anecdotal life experiences. This has been historically and statistically proven time and time again. People of color know this in their gut and are forced to deal with it daily. To be able to pick and choose when you want to deal with the realities of systematic oppression is a privilege that only those with white skin can enjoy. Black Lives Matter is not a call for supremacy. It is a compassionate, non-violent call for equality. So many white people are so used to living in a society that revolves around them and their culture that to see or even hear the smallest suggestion of equality, they hear supremacy. True black activists are not at all interested in supremacy because they have no intention of imitating one of the worst flaws of the oppressor. Black people do not want to be treated better than white people. Black people do not want to be treated better than anybody. Black people want to be treated as if our lives matter just as much as white people's. Some have said the phrase Black Lives Matter too, or Black Lives Matter also, is a more accurate wording. But if we have to add to, or also for you to care, you probably didn't care in the first place. You probably didn't care about black life all that much to begin with. If you hear Black Lives Matter, it automatically offends you. To say Black Lives Matter too, or to say Black Lives Matter also, is overstating the obvious and accepting the perception that our lives are less valuable. The phrase Black Lives Matter does not accept this perception and smashes it to pieces. Black Lives Matter, period, full stop. Either you agree that Black Lives Matter, or you don't. You should not meet any conditions to agree with this. A little over a year after Trayvon Martin was murdered by George Zimmerman, an unarmed black 18-year-old named Mike Brown was gunned down in Ferguson, Missouri by a St. Louis police officer named Darren Wilson. According to the official police report, Officer Wilson saw Mike Brown and a friend walking in the middle of the street and asked them not to. Officer Wilson says a confrontation ensued in which Mike Brown attempted to take his gun. This supposed action caused Wilson to shoot Mike Brown 6 times, killing him. Mike Brown's body was left in the middle of the street for 6 hours. 6 hours, which is an unprecedented amount of time to leave a dead body in public, but a hell of a lot of time to get conflicting stories together. As the Ferguson community began to grieve and express disbelief at not only what happened, but at how long Mike Brown's body was left in the street, St. Louis police preemptively suited up in riot gear and took to the streets to attempt to harass the community into not asking too many questions. There were too many questions not to ask. If Mike Brown was trying to take Darren Wilson's gun, how did Darren Wilson manage to shoot Mike Brown when he was 148 feet away? Why 6 shots? Why was he going for the kill? Why was Mike Brown's dead body left in the middle of the street for 6 hours? When you combine these questions with the fact that the St. Louis Police Department had an ugly history of engaging in very racist practices, a history that was well documented in a Justice Department report that was initiated in part by Mike Brown's death, the community had much to be suspicious about. As the over-militarized St. Louis Police Department continued to agonize the community in mourning, a couple of skirmishes between police and the citizens that pay their salaries broke out.